The end of the Ayatollah's regime and the Islamic Republic of Iran is drawing nearer. The whole world is watching the situation in the country. The protests are intensifying by the moment and have reportedly already reached the capital, Tehran. All of this is happening against the backdrop of constant threats from the United States, personally from Donald Trump. If Iranian citizens are injured, let alone killed, in these protests by the regime, the United States would be willing to step in and deliver the final lethal blow. How much of this is actually true? How much is due to Western propaganda? Is the Ayatollah's regime really about to fall? What is the United States going to do about it? What role is it playing in all of this? Let's analyze it in detail in today's video. I'm Liu Sivaya, a Donbass war correspondent and geopolitical analyst. Subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with the latest international news and, of course, the Ukrainian conflict. Let's get started with everything. We have the latest images from Iran. What's happening in the country right now is very serious, although not as serious as Western media are portraying it. Pay attention to the facts and keep a critical mind, because there are already reports about several areas in Iran being controlled by protesters, by insurgents, by rebels. We will see this once we have the results of the attacks in question. That's right, latest news on Iran, and now let's move to a more detailed analysis. Gunshots can be heard in the capital, meaning the protests have reached Tehran, where you can already see the footage. Massive protests have broken out, and mobile internet blackouts are widespread nationwide. Almost the entire Islamic Republic has lost internet access, which is a clear indicator. The exiled king of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, in the midst of the massive protests in the Islamic Republic. He will meet with the President of the United States, Donald Trump, next Tuesday at Mar-a-Lago. This, without a doubt, gives us a clue as to who is behind these protests. Although I want to emphasize again here, of course, the fact that the civilian population in large numbers is not very supportive of the current regime in Iran. We're talking about at least a 50-50 split, or maybe a 40-60. Being generous to the Iranian government. Either way, it's really not so clear that the Iranian regime has the fuel for these protests. That it's where exactly? In popular unrest or outside interference? Most likely, we're talking about foreign interference that takes advantage of popular discontent and tries to use it for its own interests. Here, absolutely. It's also important to emphasize that once the Iranian government falls, it's unlikely that this will bring better results for the population. Right now, they may not be living under the best regime, but I'm not at all sure that the next one will bring them better results. In Iran, the protesters have taken over two cities, Abdanan and Malexani. The police have joined the people. The rebels are forming their own organs of power. The regime is on the verge of collapse and about to fall, and the situation is quickly moving toward a civil war. These are the messages that have appeared in different media outlets, mostly Western ones. Let's analyze the reality of things now, because this isn't as serious as they're making it out to be. Although it's true that the conclusions about the fall of Abdanan are getting worse by the moment, some media outlets seem to get confused, whether deliberately or foolishly. They don't know the reality and just write for writing's sake, which doesn't surprise me much. The city is Abdanan, not to be confused with Abadan, which is different, has a population 10 times larger, is an important industrial center, and the heart of Iran's oil industry. They call it big or huge, though it has just 20,000 to 25,000 residents. That is, it seems like they are making up an alternative story. By the way, they base this on several videos where you can see a crowd walking down the street. Someone is shouting these absolutely anti-government slogans, but in reality, you can't really see much more than that. That is, there are massive protests. This is absolutely clear, but too many conclusions are being drawn from that in a way that's too realistic. The Iranian news agency MER reports that last night in Abdanan, a peaceful demonstration was held in which economic demands were raised. The event lasted until around 7 p.m., after which most people dispersed. Afterwards, a group of 250-300 protesters began committing acts of vandalism and setting fires. This resulted in damage to several stores and power outages in some parts of the city. No Iranian news reported anything about the demonstration. According to the Iranian government, law enforcement acted successfully, and now the situation in the city is calm and under the full control of the police. Tasneem also reports that security forces dispersed the protesters. Malik Sani is not actually a city, but a rural district with around 21 to 22,000 inhabitants, mainly Kurds from Malik Sani. The entire rural district is the city of Tif Shirak Arakbash, which has an administrative center with 000 inhabitants. It is the former Tal Goza, which obtained city status. According to Iranian media, the situation there is also quite calm. It is important to remember that both Abdelnan and Malik Sani are border areas that are close to Iraq, inhabited mainly by Lurs and Kurds, therefore those from South Africa. Riots there may also have a specific character, that is tribal, related to some kind of economic crime. In short, they may be related to other issues. Beyond the popular discontent with the regime, sometimes in cases like these, it's not clear what's happening. A remote area where any conflict can be exaggerated and declared as the absolute agony of the regime. So I repeat this information that comes to us mainly from the West. We have to take them with a grain of salt, however, since we're already having the first day of disobedience. The United States and Israel are going on the offensive in Iran. The organizers of the protests in Iran who haven't been hiding for a long time. In other words, the United States and Israel are openly saying that they are intentionally trying to restore the Pahlavi dynasty, which was overthrown in 1979 through the son of the deposed Shah. And right now, practically the entire United States government is expressing itself in these same terms on one hand, and on the other hand, Israel as well. Today was the first day of the so-called general disobedience, which had previously been called for by the United States. Israeli pretender to the Iranian throne, Reza Pahlavi, who is currently in the United States. What can be said today is that there was clearly quite good organization and coordination of actions. An open radicalization? According to the Kiev scenario from early 2014, the protesters are clearly making the situation worse and want to get a bloody image. Necessary. It could even be for the entry of the United States, because Donald Trump, and let's see now. Next, he has sent a very clear message through various media outlets that if the Iranian regime kills even one person in these protests, the United States will step in and enter the conflict. Mass casualties among the civilian population are needed so that it will be easier for the Americans to come to the aid of the coup plotters and overthrow the Ayatollah's regime by force. It's no coincidence that Trump, also clearly in line with the rest of the actions of the revolutionaries, has recently announced that if there are mass casualties among the civilian population, he will carry out a military attack against Iran. Therefore, it seems that the decisive battle for power in Iran has begun. Tomorrow may reveal many things. If the protesters manage to get more people out on the streets than today and even get a better image, absolutely necessary for the regime to fall. So, will they really have the chance to overthrow the current regime? If not, the Ayatollahs will most likely end up staying exactly where they are. So here, once again, it's very important to see how events unfold. For now, indeed, the images tell us many things, but they don't tell us anything conclusive, which we must be very clear about once again. That is, what we need to be very clear about is the fact that cognitive warfare is taking place right now. Against the entire international population, against some in one way, against others in another way.